Morning, everybody. I'm David, and welcome back. It's good to see you all this morning. So go ahead and find your way to your seated position, and we'll start with breathing practices. There's no rush about that, but just settle in. Let your hands rest in your lap in some comfortable way, and then close your eyes for the next few moments and redirect your focus to your breath. And at first, there's no need to breathe in a specific way, just let your breath be normal. And for the next few moments, try to be more aware of your breathing than your thinking. No need to stop your thoughts either, just let them come and go like clouds in the sky. And over again, redirect to your breath when your mind wanders elsewhere. The Sanskrit word kapal refers to skull, and the term bhati is to some type of cleansing, purification, or shining. The Kapalabhati pranayam is the skull shining breath. On this particular practice, you hyperventilate. Now, to do this, you pump down with your belly to send out short bursts of air. You relax as you inhale so that that breath can sort of come back to its same capacity that it was at before. And as you do this repetitively, you start to feel a little lightheaded and a little clearer inside. Now, today we'll do approximately 3 rounds of 50 in total. I will do the exercise through my teeth so that you can better hear the sound. From your side, try to breathe through your nose because it has better effect. Now, remember, this is a little bit like pumping a turkey baster. Force your exhales out in short bursts, relax and let your inhale flood back in. Do that over and over again. And as you breathe, try to keep some air in your lungs as you continue on. Now, if you're unfamiliar, listen to the first few counts and then jump in once you've got the general picture. I'll be demonstrating along with you here if you need to see. Now, first and be above all else, we have to get on the same page with our breath stream. So for that, exhale every drop of air through your nose. Squeeze down with your belly. Breathe in all the way up to the top. 2 more times, exhale. Big inhale. Exhale your air. Breathe in. Exhale, about half. Pump with your belly. Breathe in. Hold your breath. Exhale all of your air for a recovery breath. Again, breathe all the way into the top. Out with around half to 2/3. And again. Breathe in. Hold your breath. Exhale all of it. Then the final rounds. Breathe all the way in. Exhale half to 2/3. Breathe in and hold once more. Exhale all of your air. Spend a few moments not breathing at all at the end of your exhale. When your breath returns naturally, let it come back. And focus on your normal inhales and exhales. And then join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Bring to mind someone you would like to dedicate your practices to. And then send your person some good energy mentally. All right, then open up your eyes. And then when you're ready, plant your hands and step back to the high plank position. Start with your shoulders right above your hands. And having used that to measure out the stance of your down dog, without walking your feet forward or your hands back, lift your hips up into the air. And then today, work through some pedaling to loosen up your hamstrings and your calves. As you pedal, rotate your torso off from one side to the other side. And keep breathing deeply throughout. Next, use an inhale to roll yourself to the plank position. And drop your knees all the way down to the floor. Round your back with your exhales. Arch your spine with your inhales. And keep moving back and forth like that. Huge exhales to rounds and inhales to arch as well. And aside from that, any creative combination of motions that you would like to integrate, just move around in ways that feel nice. Pay attention to what feels good. And in your way, just do a little bit more of that for a while. Just like before, keep breathing deeply throughout. Now move back to the high plank position. Feel free to use your knees on the floor if you like. Lower down about half with an exhale. From there, roll over your toes to an upward facing dog with an inhale. Knees can be down if you want to modify. Lift your hips back up to the ceiling for the downward facing dog stretch. And this time, just drive out through your hands. Press both heels nearer to the ground. Once you feel some good stretching going down in your calves, squeeze your elbows toward your skull so your arms go straight, and then breathe deeply once more. And taking a look forward, step, walk, or hop to get to your thumbs. Come all the way up to the tips of your fingers. Take a forward fold once you have. Use an inhale to sweep all the way up to standing. With your arms still lifted up, interlace your hands, point your index finger to the ceiling, and then squeeze your elbows in towards your skull till all arms go really straight. Side bend your torso to your left. Hike your left hip up a little higher so your pelvis remains level. And if it feels okay with your neck, look up at the sky underneath your right armpit. Really use your arms to pull some length into your side. Use your next inhale to come back up. Elongate up through your arms. Switch all the way over for the same posture on the second side. And if looking up at the ceiling doesn't feel good, looking forward or down is always a fine alternative. Top of the pelvis level as you hold. Use your next inhale to come up. Then forward fold with your exhale and take both hands down to the ground beneath. Bend your legs, sink down as though you're sitting on a little tiny chair, and sweep both arms all the way up to the ceiling above you. Join your hands together in a prayer as your chest. Twist to your right, cross your left elbow over your legs, and press your hands together to rotate your spine for a little bit. Draw your left hip a slight bit further back so your hips square with the rear of the mat. Use an inhale to sweep both arms all the way back up. Join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Switch for the same posture on whichever side you have not got. This time try to draw your right hip back a little bit to maintain your square with the rear of the mat. Send your breath into a spot that feels tense. Use your next inhale to sweep both arms all the way up. Straighten your legs to stand up tall, and take your hands to your waist and heel toe your feet apart until they're separated by about hip distance, and parallel your feet. This time, roll your tail under until you feel your booty sort of flexing. Draw your hip creases back a little bit till your bum gets soft again. Squeeze your elbows back in together, and keep your lower body as it is in back bend by just lifting the base of your ribs. Lift your chin and roll it back. Squeeze your elbows back in together as well. And use an inhale to come up. Hinge from your hips to folds. Take a look at your feet, make sure they're parallel. Then bend your knees. Use your index and middle fingers to grab the inside of your big toe. Take your thumb to the tips of the toes themselves. And as you lift your chest away from your thighs, hike your hips higher until you feel stretch in the backs of your legs. Tuck your ribs down in the front so your torso is compact and there's no back bend at all. And hinging from your hips, gently pull your head closer to your toes. This one's called Padangustasana, hand to big toe pose. Now the next one is a variation on Vinyasa, the monkey's pose. Come all the way up to the tips of your fingers. Now as you lift your chest, rather than doing a back bend by really lifting your collarbones high, tuck your ribs down in the front and just lift your collarbones as high as they rise until your spine feels relatively long. With your fingers still glued to the floor, rock your weight backwards so you feel more weight in your heels and lift your toes off the ground. If you can go further, lift the balls of your feet completely off of the floor. And for the next few moments, just hold. You can do this one with bent legs if it helps. Now the next one is Padahastasana, the hand to foot pose. Slide your hands completely under your feet, palms up like wedges. Bend your knees if necessary, and try to tickle your wrists and forearms with your toes. Again, you can do this one with bent legs if you wish. Lift your collarbones upwards, tuck your ribs down in the front. Stay there if you're getting enough stretch, or folds, and breathe deeply as you continue to hold. Now slide your hands out from under your feet. The next time you inhale, come up to your fingertips. Plant your hands, step or hop back to the high push-up position, and drop your knees all the way down to the floor. And thread the needle to counter that long forward fold. Sweep your right arm across your center line, take your shoulder and your head to the floor. And for the next little bit, just like gravity, twist your spine. Press down to come out of that. Switch for the same posture on the other side. Once your head has come to the earth, just keep breathing and twisting. Press down to come up. Next, shift to the plank position. This time, lower yourself all the way down to your stomach. And prop yourself up on your elbows so you look like a sphinx. Once your elbows are placed under your armpits, drag your arms into the floor. Lift your collarbones just a little bit higher and stretch back through your toes. If you're feeling Bhujangasana, the Cobra's pose, straighten your arms as much as you can. Slide your shoulders down and lift your collarbones again. Now let your ribs come down just a little bit. Plant your hands near the bottom rim of your ribs, and from there, press to the upward facing dog. Lift your hips back up again for the downward facing dog. Drive out through your hands. Lift your tailbone ever so slightly higher, and then press both heels down. All right, then take a look forward, step, walk, or jump up to the front of your mat. Come up to your fingertips, then bend both legs for the chair posture, and upward sweep your arms to the ceiling above your head. Arms low for this one. Join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Slide your right foot back a little bit and come onto the ball of your right foot and bend your front leg a bit more. You can modify like that. Otherwise, drag your heel up toward your posterior and keep your eyes locked on one single point below. Try to maintain your squaring with the front of your mat. And like a seesaw or a teeter-totter, lean forward more, lunge your foot all the way back, and from there come up to Warrior 2 with your torso facing off to the side. Back leg is straight, the front leg is bent. Lean forward and stack your left arm on your thigh. Reach your right arm all the way over your ear to the front, and then twist your entire torso open to the side. Now, if you're getting enough, stay as you are. And if you want to make it harder, reach your left arm forward as well. Extend strongly through your fingertips and keep twisting your torso open to the side. Now with legs still bent, and inhale to come back to Warrior 2. Turn your left hand to face up, reverse the Warrior to side bend. As you continue side bending, try to keep your belly, as well as your chest, facing off to the long edge of your mat. And then bend into your front leg just a little tiny bit more as you hold. All right, inhale to come back to Warrior 2. Exhale onwards through Chaturanga push-up. Elbow squeeze into the sides. Inhale for the up dog. Exhale for the down dog. Step or jump to the front of your mat. Come upwards to your fingers. Bend your legs for the chair posture and upward sweep your arms. Now the balance is easy with your hands together in a prayer at your chest, so draw them there. Slide your left foot back until your toes are just behind the heel. Come up to the ball of your foot and try to get your hips squared with the front of your mat. And finally, if you want to take it further, drag your heel up to your posterior and keep looking at something solid down there beneath. Pretty substantial bend in your standing leg. Now hinge from your hips to lean forward more. Float your foot all the way back. Once you have, pop up to Warrior 2. With your torso facing the side, bend your front leg substantially. And then leaning ahead, stack your right arm on your leg. Reach your left arm all the way forward over your ear. Rotate and twist your torso open to the side. At the same time, try to slide your shoulders away from your ear towards your belts. Both arms extending forward is another possibility. Just try to keep breathing as you hold. All the way back up to the top for Warrior 2. Turn your front palm to face up. Reverse the Warrior, side bend left. And just reach strongly through your hand to create openness in your side body again. Make sure you keep that front leg bent quite a lot. A different transitioning. Use an inhale to come back to warrior two. Straighten your leg, turn your feet to face the side of your mat, and then take your hands to your hips. From there, roll your tail under till your buttocks clenches. Lift your tailbone very slightly upward till your butt gets softer. Now squeeze your elbows back. Lift up to the base of your ribs to back bend. And then forward fold straight away and take your hands to the floor. Turn your toes out. And bend your legs as though you're going to do the horse. And then just like you do in the cat posture, round your spine. And curl your chin to your chest. This time let your head hang close to the mat. Crisscross your arms with your elbows down near the floor. And then stand up with an inhale. Straighten your legs, reach your arms out to the sides and up. Squeeze your bum at the top. Bend and then cross with your exhale. Round your spine and let your head hang near the floor. Inhale and rise upwards. Exhale and then bend. All right, twice more. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale all the way up. Exhale to bend and cross. With your legs still bent, take your hands all the way down to the floor. Spin your left foot around to face the back of your mat. Place your hands on either side of your left foot and turn your back heel straight upwards into the air. Now grab your left foot, turn the toes sideways or sideways-ish out to your left. Your left hand comes to the knee. Turn your right fingertips out and twist toward your left leg. And then round your spine a little bit. Attempt to touch your right shoulder to your left inner knee. That'll stretch your hip with more depth and also stretch open your back as well. Now release that twist, walk your hands over to face the side. Rotate your feet around the other direction so your right toes face the other side of the mat and your left heel faces up. Once you got into that lunge, spin your right toes out. Now sometimes if you come up to your left fingertips and turn them sideways, it'll be easier to do that shoulder dip. And take your right hand to your knee and at a minimum, twist things to the right. Now, if you're going to try the shoulder to knee thing, you've got to round your spine substantially. So really dip in and pull those 2 points a bit closer together. Now release your twist, walk your hands sideways to face the long edge of your mat. Straighten your legs and turn your big toes in. Place your left hand right beneath your chest. Twist right, reach your right arm all the way upwards into the air. Alternatively, if you want to deepen the stretch, take your left hand to your right foot and keep twisting everything open to the edge. And take your right hand to the floor beneath your chest. Twisting left, reach your arm straight up to the ceiling. Or if you did so on the other side, take your right hand to your left foot and keep twisting. Both hands back down to the floor. Use your inhale to lift up to your fingertips. Return your hands to your waist. Stand all the way up. Take a back bend at the top. And then exhale all the way back upwards. And reach your arms way out to your sides. Take a massively big step to get back to the front of your mat. Join your hands together on a prayer at your chest. For the next few moments, shift your focus back to your inhaling and your exhaling. When your mind drifts elsewhere, notice, and then just redirect. All right, the figure 4 is up next. So open up your eyes, bend your legs, and come up to the chair just momentarily. Both arms upwards. Take your hands to your waist. If it helps your balance, you can turn your toes ever so slightly outwards. Then cross your left ankle over your right leg. Reach both arms out to the sides. And make sure you've bent your standing leg substantially so you have a shelf upon which you rest your shin. Now, if you want to deepen things a bit, lean forward slightly a bit at a time until your torso gets near parallel to the earth beneath. And if you want to take things further, interlace your hands behind your back and sweep your arms upwards in the air to the ceiling. Otherwise, hang out like me with your arms extended to the sides instead. Now come all the way up to the top, straighten the leg that you're standing on, reach both arms up, and take your left knee really, really high. And then drop your foot back down to the mat. Hands together in a prayer. With legs bent, sweep your arms all the way upwards. Hands to your waist. Again, if it helps, you turn your toes out a little bit. And then cross your right ankle over. Reach your arms out to your sides. Bend your standing leg till you find that shelf again and the stretch in your hip. And then optionally, lean forward a bit at a time to intensify. If you want to make it a little harder, interlace your hands behind your back and sweep them up to the ceiling. And then lifting your chest first, sweep your arms to the ceiling and draw your knee toward your collarbones. Straighten the leg that you're standing on as you lift your leg really high. Drop your foot down and join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Utthita Hasta Padangustasana. Take your hands to your waist. Again, turn your toes out a slight bit if it helps you. Otherwise, feet are parallel. Draw your left knee toward your chest. Grab your knee. And as though you were lifting it higher with a clothes hanger, lift your knee joint higher. Now, if you wish to go deeper, reach down and grab your big toe with your index and middle finger. Tuck your ribs down in the front and pull that knee ever higher with your clothes hanger again. Now, if you've got to there, kick out your foot. You can do this with your leg bent, or if you wish, just straighten out your leg completely. As you hold, don't forget to breathe. Just drop your foot to take it down and join your hands together in a prayer. And the same on the second side. Draw your right knee up. Sometimes if you get the bones into correct placement, you get a little more depth. So take just a moment, even if you could go further, to hike your knee higher as though with a clothes hanger. If you sort of swing your foot toward the midline, sometimes it's easier to reach down and grab that big toe. If not, do the one with leg bent instead. Again, pull your knee higher and higher up. Extend your foot to whatever degree you're able. And as you lock your eyes on something solid, keep breathing. And drop your foot back down to the earth and join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Next, squat all the way down on your heels. Move your knees out to the sides and plant your hands on the ground about shoulders distance apart. You know what's coming. It's all about the crow, right? So bend your elbows so you can stick your legs on your uppermost arms. If you want to modify, lean a little weight into your palms. If you want to take it further, lift your buttocks. Take one foot up or possibly both feet off of the floor. And look forward as much as you possibly can as you hold. Beautiful, Amy and Tara. Well done. All right, high push-up position. Lower down through chaturanga. And breathe in for the up dog. Lift your hips again for the down dog stretch. Roll to a plank position and drop your knees. Now roll completely over onto your right hip. Prop yourself up on your right elbow and draw your knees towards your chest. Now once you've done that, we're going to take a clamshell. So with your feet touching, lift your left knee off of the right knee. Press your elbow and your knee into the floor. Roll your tail under to engage your glutes. And then reach your left arm straight upwards into the air. Gaze down, sideways, or up, whichever of the three feels best with your neck. And just keep squeezing by rolling your tail under as you hold. Take your hips all the way back down to the ground. From there, just shift over for the same posture on the other side. Lift your right knee off the left knee. As you drive your elbows into the ground, press your knee into the floor to lift your hips upright. And from there, extend your arm to the ceiling. Gaze in the same direction you did before. Try to keep tucking your tail so your glutes engage on that side. Just a few more moments while there. Try to maintain your tail tuck. Take your hips all the way back down to the floor beneath. Roll back over so you wind up facing the front of your mat. And then this time, lower all the way down to your stomach. All right, so this posture is horribly awkward, but it's great for your back. Roll over onto the right-hand side of your body. Now, what makes this awkward is the arms position. You're going to use your arms like levers. So extend your arms down to your hips, crisscross your wrists, and interlace your pinky fingers to keep your hands together in the X-like shape that you've created. Now, with both palms facing your body, facing toward your hips, you're going to physically roll over on top of your arms. Once you've got there, slide your chin further forward and attempt to touch your chin to the floor. This one's called Viparita Shalabhasana, the inverted locust. Press your hands into the floor, with your chin remaining anchored to the ground. Try to lift your legs upward in the air. And as you hold there, just keep breathing deeply and steadily for 5. 4, keep pressing your hands into the earth. 3, 2, and 1. Stand yourself off of your arms. Once you've done so, prop yourself up on your elbows for the Sphinx posture again. Press your elbows down into the ground and lift your collarbones. Or take a second round of the Cobra pose. Sometimes with your body heated up, you go deeper the second round. But if it doesn't feel good with your lower back, modify by taking the Sphinx posture instead. Now take your elbows back down to the floor. Parallel your arms so that your right arm is in front of the left arm. Walk your hands over to the sides. Create something that looks a little bit like the wings of a dragonfly. Lift your chest higher for less stretch. Or decidedly squish your arms with your torso for more stretch. As you hold, try to keep your back relatively leveled with the sky. Lift your chest, slide your elbows a slight bit further apart, and place your other arm in front. Walk your hands over to your sideways so they wind up all crossed again. And then let your body's weight sink down on top of your arms. Lift your collarbones. Slide your arms back to the Sphinx position. Now from there, slide your knees a little further forward so you can lift your hips off the ground. And try to keep your elbows placed on the floor underneath or just slightly ahead of your armpits. All right, now just like you do in the cow posture, lift your tailbone really high. Lift your chin also, roll it back and pretend you're trying to touch your hips to your head. For the next few moments, bend your legs, point your big toes up. Try to keep your tailbone lifted high and your collarbones elevated as well. This one's a huge contraction for your back muscles. Now take your feet to the floor, straighten out your arms, And then let your armpit sink toward the floor for the puppy dog stretch. If you want to take it further, sink your chest further down until your elbows come to the earth. At which point you can place your forehead or your chin on the floor for even more stretch. If the chin down thing doesn't work for you, feel free to modify with your chest a little more lifted. Now round your spine in order to lift your elbows. Roll yourself all the way down to your stomach. And I'll have you take the bow posture. So once you're laying on your belly, bend both legs, and then reach back there and grab a hold of your feet. Try to sort of grab up near the feet, top of your feet, so you're near-ish the toes. All right, now for today's form of this, lean forward until your head actually or almost touches the floor. It's going to pitch a bunch of body's weight ahead. Keep your head down like that. Press your feet straight upward into the hands without lifting your head. Press them up just a little higher. Yeah, Tara, just like that. Now look forward to lift your head. Use your exhales to press your feet a little higher upwards. And squeeze your big toes a slight bit closer together in midair. Yes, Amy, good. All right, let go. Come all the way down. Bend your legs and wave your ankles from one side to the other side. Just alternate back and forth between those two sides. So by leaning weight forward so that more of your weight is near the base of your ribs, your feet will come substantially higher. Kind of like a scorpion's tail in that respect. So again, reach back and grab the tops of your feet near your toes. Now, Amy and Tara are doing a great job of showing the posture. So if you need to see, you take a look at the screen. For now, squeeze your shoulders back in together. Lean weight forward so your head comes to or near the floor. And see if you press your feet even slightly higher this time. For good measure, give them another upward press. Now lift your chest and just lift your head by looking forward. And try to keep your weight near the bottom rim of your ribs. Press your feet straight up to the ceiling as though you were hanging from that point. Hold steady and breathe. And then relax to come back down to the floor beneath. And bend your legs and wave your ankles from one side to the other side. Plant your hands near the bottom rim of your ribs and curl your toes under and back. And for the next few moments, press back through your heels until your kneecaps lift off of the earth. Now start flexing the muscles in your body. Flex your chest and your arms, squeeze your butt and flex your legs. With everything tense and tight, take a huge inhale. And then drive low push up to high. Use your knees if it helps. And at the top, if necessary, slide your hands closer together so your shoulders are right above your wrists. Next, press down through your hands until your shoulder blades slide apart a little bit. And then draw your left knee toward your collarbones. And then the right. And just alternate back and forth between both sides. Try to keep your shoulders super stationary. And do all the motion with your lower abdominal muscles and your legs. Just a few more rounds of these. And in fact, for now, back to the downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward to your hands. And take your back knee to the ground. And then turn the toes of your left foot out to the side a little bit. Take your left hand to your knee. Place your right hand on the floor. And twist toward your bent leg. This time you don't need to dip your shoulder or anything like that. Just focus on the rotation. Now that may well be enough stretch, but if you want more, shift your buttocks back a little bit, which will take some of the pressure off your rear quads. That will then enable you to maybe bend your leg. Now, if you get to that, reach back and try to grab your foot with your left hand. Press your foot backwards. Let your hips sink down toward the mat again, and just keep on twisting. If that doesn't work, you just keep your hand on your knee instead and focus on the base rotation. Now release that and set up for the pigeon. Plant your hands on the floor. Swing your left ankle toward your right hip. And then lean all the way forward onto your elbows. Roll your right hip around and down toward the ground to level. And slide your right leg a little further back, which will help your hips near the floor. And then just keep breathing as you hold. Put your fingertips on the floor just beneath your shoulders. Come up for a momentary back bend. Once you've done so, step back to the downward facing dog. And lunge your other foot all the way forward. Take your knee to the ground in the back and turn your toes all the way out. With your left hand resting beneath your shoulder so it can support your weight, take your right hand to your knee and twist everything open to the side. Now, grabbing that foot can be tricky business, especially if your hips are really sinking down. Sometimes, though, if you sort of straighten your right leg so you can lift your butt upward and backward, that'll make it easier to bend the back leg. If you can reach back to grab with your right hand, do so. If you get the foot, keep holding on to it as you let your hips sink and maintain your twisting to the side. Release the foot if you did indeed grab it or the twist, and take the pigeon pose by swinging your right ankle towards your left hip. Roll your left hip around and down. Slide your rear leg backwards, maintaining your leveled hips to the best of your ability. Fold onto your elbows. Next one is done from your back. So roll over onto your hip, slide both legs forward to the front of your mat, and then just roll all the way back down to a full reclining position on the ground. Once you've got there, reach your arms all the way out to your sides. Draw your knees toward your chest. Drop your knees right, and then rotate your gaze left. And sweep your knees all the way back up and take them over for the same posture on the other side. When you're ready, find your way to the corpse pose, flat out on your back on the floor. Make any final adjustments you need to so you can get comfortable and stuff. Once you've got to that point, then just settle in. My partner used to travel pretty frequently for work to other countries. And while she was gone, I suppose Had I acted like the majority of my friends, I probably would have went out for drinks with my buddies or something like that. But I instead did the opposite. I usually stayed at home. We have this big pile of old school VHS videos of Ukrainian people doing yoga. They do some crazy yoga practices. So I used to set up for the long haul and I used to watch those videos all the time, over and over again. Now, when my buddies were probably out having shots with their other buddies, I was rewinding pictures of the foot behind the head pose so I could figure out how to do it better. I was trying to figure out their elaborate techniques for getting into back bends, and I really obsessed over those videos. Now, the truth of it is, I think that particular focus reflected my obsession on yoga practice. When I first started teaching, I had intended to either become a Unitarian minister or perhaps a philosophy professor, but I really, really loved yoga. Now, at the time, I was a little bit sensitive about my choice to teach yoga as a full-time profession, simply because the physical aspects of the class left out the more intellectual side of those other two pursuits. Well, knowing that I loved it more than the other two options, I decided to pursue it anyway, but I always wanted to prove myself. I wanted to show my friends and family that I was valid, that my choice was a good one, and that I was excelling in the practice. And excel I did. I put every single drop of my energy into studying yoga, practicing yoga, and teaching yoga, and I had some good success along the way. Now, many years later, I actually had to move out of that house, and I was packing things up as people do, and I ran across an old scrapbook that my partner had created for me, and it had a record of many of my successes. When I flipped open the pages, one of the first things that I saw was a full cover spread from the Boston Globe magazine. It sort of happened when I first came to Boston. It was really what helped me get my wheels turning. Shortly thereafter, there was a clipping from a Best of Boston award that I got. On other pages, there were records of being listed as one of the top 20 teachers in the world by Travel and Leisure magazine. There's some other cool stuff, clippings from Vogue magazine and Self and Women's Health and all sorts of other things. And I have to admit, when I flipped through it, it made me feel really, really good about my successes. Now, on the other hand, as I was wandering through the house, my eyes came to rest on these two tennis rackets sitting near the door. And I have to say, in that moment, my heart went in the opposite direction. My heart absolutely fell. Now, I remembered that pretty much on a weekly basis in the summertime, my partner would ask me to play tennis with her. And I have to admit that I wasn't really too terribly interested in that. It sort of seemed like an annoyance. I dedicated so much time to physical efforts in my yoga practice that I didn't want to spend my downtime doing something else physical. And also, at the same time, I was oftentimes so obsessed with my professional successes and the things that I had to do to be successful that I just kind of thought that my time would be better spent focusing on other things. Now, I did, from time to time, go out there and play tennis anyway, but I have to admit that when I did play, I was absolutely not there. I was thinking about other stuff, I was considering all the things I was going to do later that afternoon, and I was just not present. Now, I think perhaps because of that, my partner became my ex-partner with time. I think she actually sensed my absence. I think that increased her absence, and at some point, our bond just broke. We weren't able to recover it. So when I actually looked at those two tennis rackets sitting back now near the door, that for me was a very painful realization and painful reminder that I'd spent 17 years focusing on the wrong thing. Now, since that point, I absolutely try to do better. I still make mistakes from time to time, but I've learned a couple of things. First and foremost is that sometimes when you're trying to live a happy life, competence is just as good as excellence. Now, it's not to say that if you're gifted with some particular special ability that you shouldn't pursue it to the deepest degree that you can. But if you do decide to pursue it, you have to recognize there's a price to be paid for excellence. People who are extraordinary at whatever it is they've decided to do have oftentimes paid a great cost. And those costs are oftentimes a broken heart, broken relationships, and friendships that lack depth. Now, sometimes I think in those moments, if you decided to choose excellence, you have to reflect on what the cost may be. Now, if the cost is not being able to watch some stupid TV program at nighttime so you can focus on your skill enhancement, then that's probably a good sacrifice to make. On the other hand, if the sacrifice is spending time with your kid, or spending time with your family, or spending time in pursuits that will actually make you a person of greater depth, I'm not so sure that that's a sacrifice that's the best to be made. Now, the second thing that I learned from my previous experiences is the idea that I would get my life more balanced and back into order after I was successful was total bullshit. What I found is that every single time I would accomplish a goal, I'd feel as though I'd reached the top of a mountain, and all I would see is other mountaintops to be climbed in the distance. I've spoken to many of my friends who have experienced the same thing, and they've all told me the same stuff. They've mentioned that once they achieve something that makes them feel like they've hit the apex, they're happy for a few days, and then all of a sudden the urge to climb another apex comes back. So for me personally, I just try to be aware of that urge. Now, the final thing that I've noticed is being a driven person, I have to check in on a regular basis because I can absolutely get off track. And the way I check in is by checking into three things. I try to pay attention to my life. I try to reflect to see how I'm doing professionally for sure. But then I also try to see how I'm doing in the love category as well as the joy category. And if I find out that I'm sacrificing love and joy for professional success, I try to check myself based on the pain of those previous experiences to do better. Now, I don't know if you have any resonance with that in any way, shape, or form. But regardless, I think it's really good to check in on a regular basis. So today we'll take the next few moments to quiet your mind. And afterward, I'll give you a few moments for contemplation and reflection. So if you have any resonance at all, you can check in to see how you're doing for yourself. You're the only one who knows those answers. And based on what you discover, you can either continue on with your course or perhaps make some shifts. Now, for now, if you will, just shift awareness back to your whole body. And the next time you breathe in as deeply as you're able. Hold your breath and tense every muscle in your body. Squeeze the tension out. And then exhale and relax it all. Breathe normally again. And let gravity pull some of the tension out of your muscles. Just relax and get heavier there on your mat. Breathe in as deeply as you can. Hold your breath, lift your head and your arms and legs so you can really flex. Squeeze all the tension out. Exhale and relax backward into your mat. And let everything get heavy and still. Now, one more time for that. Huge breath in. Hold your breath, squeeze all of your tension out, lift your head and your arms and your legs. Squeeze your face and relax again. Redirect awareness to the tip of your nose. And at the end of every exhale, begin pausing your breath for around 5 seconds. Fewer seconds if that's too much, or more if it's not enough. Pause at the end of your exhales. Every single time you pause, let your body get heavier and let your mind settle. You definitely have to provide for yourself in this life, and there's nothing wrong with that. Success can be absolutely amazing if it's balanced success. Now, even so, you cannot hug a magazine article. In your moments of greatest need, all of your fame, all of your fortune, all of your successes will not console you if you pushed everyone else away. So, in that respect, I think perhaps a more balanced focus is really important, in addition to success. So, today, consider the general context of your life. And just ask yourself, how are you doing in the love category? How are you doing in the joy category? How are things going in the professional category? Reflect on your experiences, see how those things are balancing out in your own personal life. And based on what you see as you look inside of yourself, consider whether or not you might want to make some shifts. Consider whether or not pursuing excellence is the important thing, or perhaps maybe just focusing on competence is more important. And for the next few moments, based on what you experience, just figure out what you need. And for the final few moments, redirect all of awareness back to your breath. And just calm your mind once more by focusing deeply on your inhales and your exhales. Then disturb yourself as little as you possibly can. And whenever you feel ready, then let yourself roll over to one side. And with both eyes closed, come back to a seated and cross-legged posture of some type. And then join your hands together in a prayer at your chest. Remember the person you dedicated your practices to. Neither pray for or wish for their happiness and their. And take a moment to be grateful for the gift of another day. And if you wish, repeat after me. May all sentient beings everywhere experience peace.